Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. Tonight, I'm going to talk about Florida's new anti-immigrant law that passed recently, SB 1718. We've been getting a lot of questions about this, and unfortunately have not seen a lot of resources out there explaining the new law yet. So we wanted to go ahead and provide a little bit of an update about what's been going on. Please do ask questions if you have any in the chat, and thank you so much for being here. So let's go ahead and get started. So basically, the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, pushed forward a really terrible, really horrific anti-immigrant law that he signed on May 3rd, and as of now, it will be going into effect July 1st of this summer, 2023. The bill is called SB 1718, and it has a series of attacks on the immigrant community. We know that this is not the first time that Governor DeSantis has been attacking the immigrant community, but it's really a severe attack here, and I know a lot of people are hurting right now and trying to understand what this means. I am still reading and digesting the law myself, right, making sure I fully understand all of it, but I will share some updates in this talk about some of the takeaways and what it means, and hopefully can give you all a little bit of a clearer picture of what's going on, since there's not a lot out there in the news on this yet, or any resources really that I've seen. And shout out to Leah Lendaverde, who highlighted the need to speak on this, so thank you for the encouragement. She was asking for resources for a community. I hadn't seen any, so I said I'll do a live tonight and talk about what's going on. So this is definitely a political move. We know we've been hearing in the news that Governor DeSantis is planning to run for president, right? So obviously this is politically motivated, just like the stuff that he was doing with trying to get in the news by busing immigrants from Florida, right, to places in the north. I thanks Ricky for commenting. Ricky's saying, because they don't care about our community, that's why there's no resources. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear you're feeling that way. And please know there are a lot of people that care. I've actually been spending most of the day connecting with advocates, trying to figure out what can be done. So there are a lot of people that care, but absolutely the people behind this bill and that passed this bill have blood on their hands, because people's lives are at stake and going to be risked because of this bill. I'll be getting into that, and particularly the stuff around hospitals. So yeah, what they're doing here is they're basically using immigrants as a political pawn to get in the media, to promote, and prepare for DeSantis's potential presidential campaign. And this is at the cost of human lives, and it's wrong and it's immoral. And we should all be really, upset and pissed about this. And we should also focus on what we can do to push back. And I'll share some suggestions at the end, what you can do to push back and fight on this horrible hate that's happening. So I want to start off, before I dive in to what the bill means, talking a little bit about the power that immigrants in Florida have and how powerful and significant this community is, and just reminding folks, and if you are listening and you're an immigrant in Florida, or if you have family in Florida, that you all are powerful, right? And no matter what laws are passed, they can't get in the way of the power that this community has. And it's pretty significant in Florida. So as of 2018, more than 1 in 5 Florida residents was an immigrant. And in the same year, 2018, there were 4.5 million immigrants in Florida, comprising about 21% of the population. This, I am certain, has only increased since 2018, so making up a really significant size of the population. And that's why it's so upsetting that this would happen in a state like Florida, where immigrants are such a important, significant part of the community, right? Because the people who are passing these laws are turning their backs on their own people, on their own residents, right? On their own neighbors and community members and family members. And a lot of folks in this community are undocumented. So as of 2018, more than 425,000 U.S. citizens in Florida lived with at least one family member who is undocumented. A lot of the provisions in this law impact undocumented individuals, right? And so it's impacting not only them, but their U.S. citizen family members as well. And the economy in Florida, just like throughout the U.S., really relies on immigrants and needs immigrants to survive. So 1 in 4 workers in Florida is an immigrant, making up a vital part of the state's labor force in a range of industries. So for example, in the healthcare and social assistance industry in 2018, over 417,000 workers were immigrants. And that year, 41% of the agricultural industry and 49% of the farming industry were immigrant workers. So you can imagine these laws that are violating immigrants' rights, harming immigrants, chilling, the immigrant community, making it really difficult to live there, is certainly not in the interest of the state of Florida, the people of Florida, because of how critical the immigrant community is to the state of Florida. And the economic impact is very significant too if you look at taxes. So in 2018, immigrant-led households in the state paid $23.2 billion in federal taxes and $8.5 billion in state and local taxes, right? That's just in the state of Florida. We're talking billions of dollars that the immigrant community is contributing. And immigrant entrepreneurs in Florida also generate billions of dollars in business revenue. So this law just does not make sense, looking at all those numbers of how many people in Florida are immigrants or family members of immigrants, how significant the impact of the immigrant community is on the economy, how much they contribute, right? And besides all that, just these are humans we're talking about, right? Ricky says billions, y'all hear that exactly. These are humans. These are people with rights, no matter what their status is or isn't. We got to treat our neighbors and our community members fairly. And this law goes everything against that. So let's go into what the law includes. I'll start with the one good thing about the law, and then I'm going to share a bunch of the bad things. And then I'll talk about some things you can do next steps to fight back and contribute to supporting immigrants' rights. So first, the good thing, the one good thing, let's start with that, right? The good thing is that one piece that was supposed to be in the law that would have harmed immigrants got cut out, which is very good. And that is they were planning to get rid of in-state tuition for undocumented students in Florida. That did not make it in the final bill, thankfully. So that means that undocumented students in Florida will still be eligible for in-state tuition as long as they meet all other requirements going forward, even after the bill is passed. So that is one win, and major shout out to all the incredible advocates and who fought for that. I know there's been a lot of advocacy around that, and a lot of people, put blood, sweat, and tears into fighting for that. So super grateful for everyone's work, and we should all celebrate that in-state tuition survives for undocumented students. Now let's talk about some of the bad stuff. The first one, and please interrupt me as I'm going if you've got questions. I'll try my best to answer. So the first bad one is around employers and work. So there is this thing called E-Verify system that businesses of a certain size have to check people's work permits and immigration documents. But usually they have to be like a certain size. And basically the Florida law is changing that so that any employers of 25 employees or more will have to use this E-Verify system to check people's work permits. This is really bad. It also has fines for employers who don't comply with this, right? Very significant fines. So this is really, really bad because what this is going to do is make it harder for people to work and make it harder for businesses, especially in a state like Florida. That's why I went through all the statistics where there's so many immigrants and the economy is so reliant on immigrants. This is going to really harm the economy, right? Businesses, but most of all, immigrant families and working individuals who rely on jobs and rely on these businesses and employers to put food on the table, right? So because these employers are going to be, having to comply with this system, it's going to get more strict around checking work permits. The enforcement there is going to get stricter. It could potentially lead to, I'm concerned about like work raids happening in the workplace from ICE. Haven't read anything about that, but once this system is being participated in, like the federal government gets more involved than if these businesses didn't have to be using that system, basically. So that's the first bad thing. Let's talk about the second bad thing. And this one is really bad. This one is about healthcare and hospitals. So as many of us know, it is really difficult for a lot of undocumented individuals to get access to health insurance in many states. I don't know the specific rules on that in Florida, but I imagine it's difficult for undocumented people to get health insurance. And so what that means is often people aren't getting the healthcare they need, and then their only like last line of healthcare when there's an emergency might be going to the hospital. There's kind of like I don't know if it's like a code of conduct or ethical thing or however it's referred to, where hospitals generally accept everyone, no matter where they can pay for it, no matter their status, right? Because they're there to provide emergency care. And what this law is doing is it's forcing hospitals that receive state and federal Medicaid reimbursements to ask patients about their immigration status and report that status if they treat them. So this is super concerning, and honestly, I think this is something that a lot of people are the most worried about in terms of the cost on human lives, how this is going to like literally lead to blood on the hands of Governor DeSantis and those who voted for this law, because people are going to be afraid to go to the hospital. People are going to be discouraged from going because they know that the hospital will have to ask about their status and they might not want to share that information. So extremely upsetting that this is included. I find it, I don't even know the words. It's just shockingly horrific that such evil could be incorporated into law in this day and age. But we all know that happens in the immigration laws, right? The next bad thing in the law I want to talk about, and I'm sorry to share all the bad things. I usually like to share more hopeful and inspiring things on this channel, but I, again, did have a lot of people asking about what this Florida law means, and I personally, as an immigration lawyer, have found it hard to find information about it and resources, so I wanted to get the information out so that people are informed and know the situation and that people can start mobilizing and taking action. So the next one, this is also really concerning, that the law includes a new provision that would create criminal charges in the form of human trafficking against individuals who are helping to transport undocumented immigrants across the state lines and into Florida. So, I mean, this could apply to so many scenarios. Like, I was just watching a video of some priests in Florida talking about how they could be given criminal charges and be called felons. And I think it's up to 15 years in jail, potentially. I have to check, but for helping another human being, right? who's trying to be with their family or whatever it is. So this is really concerning. I think I'm also concerned about like the impact on children who are trying to reunify with their family, right? Maybe they came in through the border after their parent had already come, and they're trying to make it to Florida to be with their family members. Like, anyone who helps that child reunite and get to their family could be facing criminal charges. So this is also extremely concerning and just horrific. Another really bad one here. I mean, I just can't believe how many bad things are in this law, you all. It's absolutely shocking, and it's so racist, it's so xenophobic, it's so anti-immigrant, it's just despicable. So the next thing is that it bars out-of-state driver's licenses issued to non-citizens in Florida. So currently there's, I believe, approximately 16 states and the District of Columbia that offer driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants. And Florida is now going to not recognize those licenses, meaning those people wouldn't be able to drive or use that as a form of identification in Florida. It also prevents local governments from distributing funds to organizations creating ID cards for undocumented immigrants. Another really bad thing, it gets rid of a 2014 law that allowed undocumented immigrants to practice law in Florida. So that is like taking away the ability to participate in the legal system and challenge the laws, right, for undocumented immigrants. They can no longer get admission to the bar in Florida once this goes into effect. The bill also authorizes about $12 million in spending to support Governor DeSantis's program of basically transporting immigrants from Florida into other places in the country. So those are some of the really bad highlights of, lowlights, I should say, of what this law involves. Again, I hate being the bearer of bad news, but wanted to give the information for those of you who want to know what the situation is. Let's talk about what you can do, though. And anybody listening here, let me know what questions you have that have come up. So let's talk about what you can do. So first of all, if you are an immigrant in Florida, or if you are a family member of immigrants in Florida or an ally, get the word out about people's rights. So make sure people know about their fundamental rights, no matter what these laws say in the state of Florida, no matter what happens with the border and with federal immigration laws. There are certain constitutional rights that all people have in the U.S., including immigrants, that no one can take away. So, for example, one of the main ones is if an immigration agent comes to your door and knocks on your door, you don't have to open that door, right? Unless they have a warrant that's actually been signed by a federal judge that they show you, right? You don't have to open that door, right? They have no right to force you to open the door or bang down the door or any of that. And you can literally be like, okay, show me the warrant, like through the window, under the door, whatever. And until you see that, you have the right to not open that door. There's a bunch of other rights like that, that the ACLU has really good information about, and the ILRC. So I will put some links to those in the description for when I post this live. But the ILRC has these things called red cards where it lists some of your fundamental rights on the card, and you can like print that out and keep it with you. It's at www.ilrc.org/red-cards. And then Google ACLU We Have Rights and look at the immigrants' rights. They have a bunch of really helpful like videos and guides about your rights and what to do in different scenarios in an immigration situation. I'll also throw out there, we have a great resource on, we have lots of resources on our blog at immigrantfinance.com with lots of free information. It can be helpful more about the financial rights that people have and how to navigate the financial system and build wealth. But there is good information there as well about just like the rights you have in those systems as an immigrant. Next, what you can do is support local Florida immigrant advocacy groups that are going to be on the front lines as this law gets rolled out on July 1st. So find immigrants' rights groups in your area and donate, volunteer, ask them what they need help with, like connect them with people who can help out, right? Because they are going to be dealing with a lot of people subject to these laws and going to be very under-resourced and need as much of the support they can. I'll mention just a couple of groups. There's a lot of great groups, but Orlando Center for Justice in Orlando, Florida, special shout out to them. Their executive director, Giselle, is a great friend of immigrant finance, and her team do amazing work. Americans for Immigrant Justice in Miami is another group. There's also ACLU of Florida. Look up, find whatever groups speak to you, what they're focusing on, and just find a way to support, because they're going to be the ones fighting back for the immigrant community in Florida. And then third, something you can do is to really urge everyone you know who is eligible to apply to naturalize, to become a citizen, to do so, and then to register to vote. Even if you can't, if you're not eligible to become a citizen, but you know someone who can, maybe your cousin can or your friend, encourage them to do it, and then encourage them to register to vote, because we're going to need people who can outvote DeSantis if he runs for president. We cannot see someone like this who is so willing to throw immigrants under the bus and pass such hateful laws. We cannot see someone like that in the White House in charge of the US government. So we got to start getting people to naturalize and register to vote now, so that by the time election day happens, there can be lots more people who are supporting immigrants' rights who can vote against this person if he is in the election. I hope that this helped give you a little clarity. Please take some time to be compassionate with yourself. This was a lot of difficult news I just shared. So if you're feeling like triggered by anything I shared, please take some time for yourself. Reach out to loved ones. Feel free to send us a message. We're always happy to listen to how you're feeling, send encouragement, connect, like just be allies, be in solidarity. And just, take some time for yourself, because this is really, really impactful for everybody. It's even people who aren't immigrants, right? Who are loved ones and allies of immigrants, or who might be perceived as immigrants, right? Like there could be a lot of racial profiling that happens, like toward, Latinos and other folks that, people assume might be immigrants and may not be, right? And just for everyone, knowing this hate is happening in the world is extremely depressing and upsetting. And so again, just please take time for yourself, connect on the community we have here so that you don't, feel alone in this. Like we're here to support you. We have a lot of amazing people in our community who really believe so strongly in immigrants' rights, who are here to support you and walk alongside with you, in this fight for immigrants' rights. So I hope there will be better news in the near future around this. I hope that somebody challenges this law and that it doesn't end up going into effect in July. And just sending everybody my best wishes to stay strong and hang in there. And I hope to hear from you and hear your thoughts about all of this. I'd really love to connect and be in solidarity together. So thank you so much. And I hope that you have a good rest of your night.